Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, it's a two-player thing, you and me, and we are rival gangs and mobsters in New York. And we are trying to gain influence with people and trying to score points by doing that, maybe even bribing them as well. This is a two-player press your luck game called Capo Dei Cappi. This is from Dr. Finn Games, the same person who designed Biblios and Biblios Dice. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to play. It's press your luck. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. This is a two-player press your luck game where you're going to be rolling dice and placing influence or bribes in different sections of the city there, and we'll tell you how it works. The start player will get the two dice, one black, one white. They'll get 4 mayor chips, which are used for special abilities I'll talk about later. The other player that doesn't go first will get 5 of these. Now let's say I rolled the dice here. Anytime you have both dice that are 3 or less, you have these choices. I can either set this white one to this white one area, and then use the other die for how much influence I place. And from here I would grab a 2 influence and place it there, and then I would roll the dice again. Or, instead of doing that, I could then instead place it in the 2 area, black die 2, and I would place a 1 from the pot there for my influence there, and then I would re-roll again. You do that all for anything that's 3 or lower. Now if I roll a 4 and a 1, 2, or 3 on the other die, I get to raise the extortion level by the other die number. So this is a 4, this tells me where I do it. This allows me to raise the extortion level by 2, and this goes all the way up to 2. I'll tell you what this does just in a moment. Same thing would have happened if he was here, and this was the 4, for example, and the other one was a 1, 2, or 3. So if this was a 4, and this was a 3, then in this case I would still put him up. In this case he would go up 3. Now, in addition to that, you would also gain a mayor chip, and this goes right in front of here. You'll get to keep that if you don't bust. Now, if I rolled a 5 on any one die and a 1, 2, or 3 on any of the other die, I would then take one of these bribe tokens, which is a face-down influence. On the other side here is either a 1, 2, or 3, but we don't get to see it yet. And the 5 grabbing the bribe. And by the way, it's easy to know because the 5 on the die here shows the bribe, just like the 4 shows the mayor chip. The 6 we'll get to later shows that. And on the other side of the board, you'll see a die of 1, 2, and 3 get you the influence of 1, 2, or 3. So it's pretty self-explanatory once you start playing. So the 5 got me this influence, and it goes on the white 1. Of course, if it was the other way around, it would have gone on the black 1. And that's that. I would have rolled again. Kept trying to press my luck. Now if we roll a 5 and a 4, the 4 activates this. The 5, what this does is allow us to flip, if there is one, a bribe token from any other player that's already sort of on a tile, any of them. Then we raise the extortion level to that amount, so it goes up 2, and then we get to put a mayor chip against here. Now if there was no bribe token, we would just move the extortion level up 2. Again, we'll get to what this does in just a moment. Now if we roll a 6, and the other die is a 1, 2, or 3, depending on which color it is, obviously, we will place what's called a value cube. So if it was a 6 and white 1, we would place a cube here. Essentially, it makes this area that you're controlling worth 1 more point. Every cube is worth a point. If it was a 6 on this die, let's say, and let's say a 2 or a 3 on this die, it would put a cube on the black 3 area. Now if we roll a 6 and a 4, the 4 activates this tile here. The 6 adds a cube, and then we raise the extortion by this. Now obviously last time it was already here. I just pulled it back to show you maybe later in the game it may have been there on the 2 to start this turn. Now if I roll a 6 and a 5, I can place a value token on any area, and then if there's a bribe token from my other player, I can flip it over and see, in this case it's a 2. Now when I have doubles, 1s, 2s, or 3s, I can take a 1, 2, or 3 depending on what's showing on the double dice and put it on any area. So with the double 1s, I'd take a 1, I'd put it anywhere. Of course, anywhere that doesn't already have a chip. We'll get to that when we get to busting. If I roll double 4s, I get to add a mayor chip. I get to take a mayor chip in my hand, and I put the extortion level up by 1. A double 5 lets me put a bribe token next to any area. And a double 6 allows me to take a value cube from any card and add it to any card. If there are none, I could take one from the stash and put it on any card. So those are all the different things the dice do. Now again, you're going to be rolling once and then choosing something. And you're basically trying to get to the point where you have a lot of stuff ready and going like I do here, and you can decide to stop. And if I stop now, I would take all the tokens that I have on my side and I would place them on one of the 5 circles that are on each one. I would also, now once these bribes are here, I can look at them only once they've been placed and I've stopped, but I keep them face down. I'd also take any mayor tokens that are here. Now if I have any more than 7, I have to get rid of them and discard down to 7 at the end of my turn. And that would be the end. And then now here, the extortion level, if I stop and I'm here on the 6, I get to take all the value cubes that are on this. This essentially is points at the end of the game. If I'm on a 5, I would take half of these rounded down. So I would take 2 of them and leave them here. Also, if I was on a 6 and you take it all, it actually gets seeded from the pot with 2 more before the next round starts, because it always starts with at least 2 on there if it was taken off. And that's what would happen if I stopped. I basically had added influence to each card and I got a lot of stuff. Now, there's 3 ways that this could have gone bad and I could have busted, okay? So let's say we didn't stop. One of the 3 ways to bust is, for example, if I have to place somewhere that I cannot place. For example, if I roll this, I have to put an influence on number 3. It would have been a 2, but I can't do it because there's already one there. I would bust. If at any point I have to raise the extortion level higher than the 6, I would bust. And the final way is when you roll doubles, you essentially take the hitman pawn. And if I roll doubles again at any time during it, I would bust again. So those are 3 ways of busting. Of having to put a token where there already is one, going over the extortion level 6, or basically rolling doubles for the 2nd time, you would bust. And if I had busted, I would have taken all the mayor chips that were here and put them back in the stack. Any of these chips that were out here would have gone back to the stacks, and any of these bribe chips stay face down and they go back. I would have lost everything, and then it would have been the other player's turn. Now, it might sound like there's a lot going on here, and there is a decent amount going on, but there is a very good player aid that shows you all the dice combinations, what the actions are, and what to do. Now, the last thing is these mayor chips. This is really where the heart of the strategy is in the game. For example, there's plenty of these that you can use just one of them for, and here's a bunch of those. I could spend one on my turn and move this any token to an adjacent token, any adjacent card. So maybe I move that over there. Now, anytime you use either 1 or 2 of these guys, you can't stop. You always have to have one more roll. I could also use 1 to move it from here anywhere onto the actual card as if I had stopped safely. Another way to spend 1 is I'd roll doubles. I would normally get the hitman, which means if I roll doubles again, I would bust. You can use a chip to throw it back into the stash and remove the hitman. Essentially gives you another free doubles to roll. And you can also spend 1 if it's the other player's turn to force them to negate this roll and re-roll it. Now, if it's your turn and you rolled some dice and you want to re-roll it, you can get rid of 2 mayors to re-roll 1 set of dice. The last thing you could do is spend 2 of these to raise the extortion level by 1 or 2. Now, this would continue stopping or busting back and forth, laying cubes and influences until one of 3 things happens. There's no more of these value cubes left in the supply, or there's no more of these influences of any one number. Or the last place is if there's no more of these bribe tokens left in the supply. If any one of those things happen, it triggers sort of the end game, and at the end you then score. For each of these, you would get 1 point for having an area control. So in this one, the opponent won this because it was 2 to 1. He would get this for 1 point, and these are 2 more, so this would be 1, 2, 3 total points. You do that all the way through, whoever has the most. Obviously, nobody has this one. A tie, nobody wins anything or the cubes on them in this case, right there. And then essentially you just add them up, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, I was interested in this because the designer, Dr. Finn there, Stephen Finn, did Biblios, which was one of my favorite fillers of all time, did Biblios Dice, which was also a solid game. So this one I wanted to check out. I'd heard some good, clever things about it. And overall, I can recommend it. I think it's a good, solid game. If you're looking for a 2-player game that's got that pressure luck element, but yet has some strategic depth, I think this one would be one you'd want to check out. Now, with that being said, some of the production values could have been better. The token numbers that actually have the numbers on them could have been double-sided, things like that. But it was a Kickstarter project from a smaller publisher, so I'm more willing to let that slide from a publisher like that. Now, the game itself is not hard to understand, but there's definitely a lot going on with it. The learning curve is a little steep because there's like 20 different things you can do depending on the combination of the dice, and to go over all that at the beginning of the game will make somebody's head spin. Now, granted, the player aids are great. has a fact on the back of it, and after you play a game or two, it really is just second nature to know what happens. It's just at the beginning, it looks like a steep learning curve, even though in the end it's not that bad. But with given that said, this is not a two-player game that I would ever be able to play with a non-gamer like my wife, who does play some games that are very light and easy to get into. So I'd say this is a step above, sort of a gateway game. It's a next step that someone has to pretty like gaming or be into gaming, or to make a next step from something very light to try to get into this, because there's a lot going on. But it rewards you because when you play with this thing, there are some decisions to be made. Now some people say, well, it's completely random. You're just rolling dice and saying when to stop. Sure, that's what a press your luck game is. But the real strategy in this game is with those mayor chips, and when you get them, when to stop, when to use them, how many to use, and the right timing of what to do with these. And that's really the strategy in this game, is it mixes the luck with the strategy of those chits, and I think it's a good solid effort. So if you're looking for a two-player game that's quick and easy, might not be entry level for sure, but if you're looking for that, if you're sitting around with a gamer and hey, we got 15 minutes, we don't play, this is a good choice. Check out Capo Dei Cappi. And remember, together, let's spread our love of board games and through board games.